Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay today. I want to talk about evidences for the Bible, and the next thing I want to talk about is how amazing the Bible is. There's so many different writers and so many cultures over thousands of years, and so many books that have gone into the Bible, and yet the Bible is one message. Excuse me. I'll give you an example. Take 50 people at any period of different periods of history, a person from the Roman period, a person from the Greek period, a person from our modern times, a person from 5,000 years ago, a person from 50 years ago. Take these people and then take a book from every 100 years from now for 1,000 years ago. So it could be a poetry book, maybe some of the plays of Shakespeare, or the poems of Coleridge, or the essays of a Montague, or the novel of a Dostoevsky. You take all this literature and all these different people, put it all together, and see if when you put it together what they have to say, that it's all going to be just one message. And that's what you have in the Bible. You have many different writers, some who were rich, some who were poor, some who were shepherds, some who were kings. You had over thousands of years span of history. You had different kinds of literature, poetry, letters, history, and yet all this literature and all these different types of people and all these different cultures are made into this Bible, and yet this Bible has one message, and that is a miracle. And Luther said the Bible is the cradle where Christ is laid, and the Bible from the beginning to the end is about Jesus Christ. If you look at Genesis, when Adam and Eve fell, and God gave Adam and Eve some skins to cover themselves up, even there was a prophecy of Jesus coming. The skin that they needed to be covered up, that they would need to be covered up by an atonement, was already there, and it's called the proto-evangelism, proto-evangel. Theologians call it, even in the early account of Genesis chapter 1, 2 and 3. And right through the Bible, when Noah, when the flood came, and Noah was promised that there was the rainbow, and the promise that there would never be a worldwide flood again, but there was a promise there that you know, the rainbow was a sort of symbol that God was a God of grace and pointed to a future mercy. And then when Moses was called, and he sacrificed the lambs on the Day of Atonement and the animals on the Day of Atonement, where people's sins were forgiven by the goats that were sacrificed, it was a symbol that Christ would come and he would be the final sacrifice. Even the high priest was a symbol that Jesus would be the final high priest in the Old Testament. That's why when John the Baptist saw Jesus, he said, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And the Old Testament talks about the prophets, and there would be a final prophet, and Jesus was the final prophet. The Old Testament talked about the final king, and Jesus was the final king. And the Old Testament talks about the final high priest, and Jesus was the high priest. So the Old Testament was pointing to Jesus Christ, and then the New Testament is a fulfillment of that. Here is the king, here is the prophet, here is the Messiah, who is all that we need, who is the answer to the sin problem. All the prophecies about the Messiah, that he would come on a donkey, that he would die on a cross, that they would cast lots for his garments, all were prophesied about Jesus. It was all about Jesus. It was everything about him in this Bible. One message, and yet by different writers in different cultures over many thousand, or a number of thousands, over thousands of years, and yet it's one message, and that is a miracle. Thank you.